Hey, what is going on, everybody? Boilon here, back for another video here on Marvel Strike Force. Today is Sunday, and yes, I know we're actually doing something that is not Battle World and Null related. I know that people are going to be on the back of this week's or weekends of that. We're going to be discussing Battle World in more detail and doing a little bit of a review tomorrow, I think, in some of my next videos. But today I want to talk about the Shadow King trial because that's going to be on Friday. And I want to do kind of like a part two. I already discussed the trial in relation to the nodes, but I want to, from the context of my alt account, I want to go over the lanes. I want to go over the teams and characters that I'm going to be using for this trial on my account and what I'm kind of upgrading right now and making sure that I have ready for Friday and beyond. So if you're ready to go, everybody, let's boil this down. Now, before we get started, I do want to give a special shout out to Big Positive Geek. This is his Shadow King Trial Guide infographic, which I will be putting in the links in the description, and I should have a pinned comment for that as well. Also, you'll be able to find this on my Discord server a little bit later on as well. So I think this really kind of encapsulates, I don't know why I use that word. Anyways, uh, what's going on with this trial and the various lanes, right? So we have the two main teams of Illuminati or Captain Britain. So you can use Captain Britain at any star levels, regardless of which difficulty that you're running. But do keep in mind that I think if you're challenging like, D13 plus and you have a 3 yellow Captain Britain, I think there's a chance that he's going to get his face smashed in. We'll have to see what happens when it goes live on Friday. I think this is just kind of Scopely's way of saying, yeah, you can use him, right? But don't expect him to necessarily be great without the accompanying stars and reds. Annihilators, I think this is going to be pretty easy. We did cover the actual nodes themselves, and it didn't really seem that bad. I think it's possible that the first node, which I believe has Sinister Six and Cabal characters on the first Illuminati node, could be a little bit challenging. There's my dog shaking in the background. Because of the Crucible buffs, right? If you have the Crucible pack active, I think that's where we could run into some troubles here on that one. But for this one with the arena text, honestly, I think it's going to be a walk in the park. We also do have Global Villain, of course. We have Brawler non-mythic, and we have Mercenaries are Undying. Realistically, this is merch for money. Most new players are not going to have their Undying built. It's a luxury team. It's not something that you're going to have. And the biggest problem here, which I'll just state out right out of the gate, they haven't rerun Old Man Logan. So I think this is going to be a pretty big hurdle for players, especially in the new player category, who haven't had the chance to unlock Old Man Logan yet. And I think that if you don't have him, it's not going to be impossible for you to unlock Shadow King, because I've heard, or apparently, that you might be able to do the same strategy for Shadow King like you did for Old Man Logan, which is running D14 and D15 on the first node, and that might get you the Shadow King unlock. We'll have to wait and see on Friday whether or not that is true or not. But if that's the case, then at least you can get an unlock for Shadow King without actually needing Old Man Logan. As far as the other characters go for Global Villain, you're getting a lot of this kind of Orcus and Cabal. I think mileage will vary depending on, the age of your account, right? Like my alt account, we'll take a look at this as well. My alt account does not have Cabal built up that much yet. And Brawler non-mythic is going to have a lot of crossovers from some of the others. So I'm going to we're not really going to focus too much on Illuminati and Annihilators, but I do kind of want to show you guys on my roster anyways, which I've kind of focused on building the most. So let's start off with Illuminati, wherever the hell they are. And so what I have kind of focused on mine. Now, I do have Captain Britain unlocked. And honestly, I know a lot of people have been decrying how terrible this is, and it was. But I think that if you were actually trying to get shards for him, that you probably should have had an unlock by now, in my opinion, through the candy store, especially. There's also going to be the RTA and strike passes, which will be running this week. And also during the Shadow King trial, we'll get the start of the strike pass too. So I think that you'll be more than able to get Captain Britain unlocked. And I highly recommend dumping Iron Man for Captain Britain and running the top shelf of 5. Now, Black Bolt, I did upgrade quite a bit because I did take him to Dark Dimension 7 Legendary. Because of Illuminati, I knew that I was going to use him for the Shadow King trial anyways. That's why he's built up so high. Mr. Fantastic, on the other hand, this is primarily because of the 3 diamond from the Pocket Dimension. Otherwise, I would focus on getting your Hank Pym leveled up, because Hank Pym is going to be so important in terms of the survivability of the team. So I would put a lot of focus on him because I think it's going to be really important to that. Black Panther Shuri is actually my furthest behind. Actually, no, technically Captain Britain is, but because I have 4 yellow with 0 reds, this is a small problem for that account, and I'm kind of just waiting to see what happens in the RTA pass before I start buying up his red stars, but it might be something that I will do, and I'll take him up to about 95 G18 just to be sure. Black Panther Shuri does need a little bit more work, but I'm gonna kind of wait until the trial goes live, see what I need to do, because I kind of want to min max my investment a little bit, and so I can't say exactly how much we need to bring them up. As far as the Annihilators go, right? This one is going to be interesting, and what I realized is that maybe to start the node, you're going to need 5 characters. I'm pretty sure. Just like the Green Goblin Classic trial when I tried to do or was it when I tried to use Masters of Evil? I forget for the Nova the trial, right? And like I barely had any of my Masters of Evil leveled up, and I tried to carry it with just Kang, and then I realized I needed 5 characters to start. So you are going to need to use Silver Surfer, which unfortunately is the character that I have not really spent much investment into. How much am I going to need Silver Surfer? That's the question, right? I'm going to at least need him in the match. He's going to be usable in that one node, right? To use the Annihilators on. But then once we get to node number 10, I don't need to use Silver Surfer anymore. So I'm hoping this limited investment that I have in him, that's fine. That's it. And that's all I need. Obviously, the ones that I would focus on the most is going to be Gladiator and Thanos Endgame. I did bring up Ultimus for Dark Dimension 7 Mythic, though. I think a lot of people are going to do that anyways. And so that's kind of a bit of a double dipping there. As far as Gore goes, I mean, yeah, I have them all at 100, right? Not necessarily everyone is, but they're the arena team. And so this is going to be some good mileage anyways. That's why I don't think this is going to be that difficult. I think you're probably going to be punching down, honestly. I think, like, I'm not even 6 stars. So I'm going to be running D11 and D12, but I have like G19 100 characters. So I think as far as content goes, I'm going to be punching down the difficulties, because the other thing that I wanted to share with you guys actually is not this, but in my data mines here is the difficulty listings here of the SK trial enemies. Oh, let's go at one. And so you can see here at the various difficulties, basically what the enemies are level and stat wise. So D10, which is before the 5-star, is level 80, gear 16, 7 yellow, 6 red. Okay, and with some enhanced stats as well with stat modifiers. But by and large, we're looking at level 80 G16 enemies, a D10. So if you're not at the 5 yellow version, that's kind of the expectation that you should have as far as, how powerful these enemies are going to be. If you're running the 5-star version, it could be anywhere. Now, D11 is going to get you the 5-star token. So this is level 19 G16 enemies. And then a D12, we have a level 100 G17 enemy, 7 yellow, 7 red, right? So you're going to be running one of these at 5-star, and that'll kind of give you an idea, again, of like what your team kind of needs to be at when we talk about your character levels. And then 6-star, which is kind of the max stuff, right? D13 through 15. This is where it gets a bit harder, right? We have gear 17, gear 18, gear 19 with a variety of diamonds. So you pretty much need maxed characters if you're going to be running D14 and 15 at this point. So keep that in mind as far as what we're talking about in this video. But depending on, what you're going to be using, I think is going to be important, and also how high you need to bring them up and what difficulty you're running, right? So let's first talk about global villain, because you know what, I hate how I keep forgetting how this filter business is now, because I'm always looking at for within there, but then we need to go to domain, hit global, and then I guess it's under type, right? I hate this thing. Global villain. So the characters that were on the infographic here, right? We had Cabal, we had Apocalypse, we had Lady Deathstrike, and then we also had other Orcus, which you could use. And I think this is going to depend on whether or not you have Cabal built. Cabal is going to be probably, because of the Crucible buffs and the Pact, is probably going to be your best choice. However, if you take a look at my account, I mean, my Iron Patriots is 16, G16, my leader's at G16, and for some reason, my Namor is at G18 with 1 diamond. I don't know why he's so much higher than my other characters. I think I did this for Escape from Kiln. I think there was a reason I needed villain mutants, and so I decided to use Namor instead for this section. But if you look at my Orcus, they're much more higher built. And so for newer and mid-game players who have built their Orcus team, this is something I would probably do, and I think it's still okay, because they're new era stat characters. I think you'll be more than fine using these types of characters, to be perfectly honest. And so I'm going to be using the 4 Orcus personally. Scientist Supreme, Lady Deathstrike, Sentinel, and Nimrod. I don't actually have Omega Sentinel built up that high yet, so I don't know if that's necessary or not, but I feel like those 4 are okay, because we're going to get the Safeguard from Sentinel. And I'm going to use Apocalypse as my 5th character. And so Apocalypse has an immunity on spawn, which means the Scientist Supreme doing the buffs and stuff with her ultimate, it's not going to really be a big deal because Apocalypse shouldn't get hit by this. And so that's my plan there. There are some other characters that you could still use, right? Agatha is global villain, so she's really powerful on her own, and even her passive is going to do a lot of damage. Like when they get low health, she's going to probably one shot somebody because their stats are very high. But beyond that, at least on my alt account, it gets really sketchy, right? I have a lot of level ones on here, and so that's probably really about it. There's not a lot of other flexibility. Morgan, I don't even want to recommend Morgan. I can't really recommend any of the rest in my right mind. Like there's Ares, I suppose, and that's about it. You know, Ares, Cabal, Orcus, that, right? And so I know a lot of veterans are going to run Cabal because of the Cosmic Crucible bust, and that's probably fine, right? And then if you have Orcus, if you have both of them, great, right? Because that's like two separate teams that you could probably produce, especially at the higher difficulties if you need to do that. But for most, I would say mid-game players, you know, who are just doing like D11 or less, D12 or less, honestly would be fine with Orcus and Apocalypse. I think that's fine too. So let's move on to the next one, which is going to be Brawlers, but not Mythic, right? So we can do not Mythic. That's the thing now. And then the role as Brawler. So non-Mythic Brawlers. And this is where things get a little bit interesting. Now, again, I wanted to do this from the perspective of my alt account because it kind of shows what characters I have leveled versus what my main might have leveled more. Now, I think what's really going to be important is kind of having Thanos endgame in here, despite having Thanos in the Annihilator's nodes of 6 and 10. This means that you kind of need to keep him alive. So if you're trying to use Thanos for 4 nodes, but his exposed passive is so important as a energy battery, right? You know, where the hell it is on. I don't even know where it shows is exposed. I thought it's down here. Yeah, once per turn when enemy with exposed is attacked, generate 1 ability energy, right? We know it's a serious energy battery, and there's a lot of brawlers here on this list that can apply exposed, which is really good for spreading that around and keeping that energy battery up. I think Ball is going to be important because I think that they're one of the few characters that can actually help heal through their ultimate, right? The health steal and then the redistribution. I'm not sure if anyone else really does any healing mechanics as a brawler. And so keeping the team healthy. Thanos endgame, Ball, Nightcrawler. That's who I'm going to take for my alt account. And then I'm thinking about Blade. I think I want to take Blade. And there is some other options here with Spider-Man Pavitra, who does not, you know, has really good solid damage, actually. Applies vulnerability on spawn as well, which is really important. If I do Blade, I'm going to do the Blade and Moon Knight combo. So that's something interesting to keep an eye out too, because the passive does give 30% drain to Night Stalker allies, and that might be a way to keep Blade and Moon Knight healthy. But definitely for sure, Thanos Endgame Ball, Nightcrawler, and then, you know, what other 2 characters that you want to use? You could use Lady Deathstrike, right? Like if she's still available after doing Global Villain and you're still quite healthy, I guess that's an option there too. But I think if looking at my roster, right, you know, that kind of leaves me with Pav, leaves me with Moon Knight and Blade. There is the option, I suppose, of Black Cat and Red Hulk, but you know, as characters, they are subject to dark promotion credits for their red stars, and that might not be the best for you. After that, it really starts scratching things a little bit. Like my Deathpool, you could use Deathpool, I suppose, but there's not going to be any raid buffs active. There will be Crucible buffs active, however, but you know, this isn't something that's really that great for new and mid-game players, in my opinion. So you can see where my roster ends up landing, and I think the characters that are listed here on the infographic are pretty solid. There are alternative picks down here as well. I would have put Moon Knight. That's the only thing that I would have made differently to this infographic, is make sure to include Moon Knight, but I think the rest of them are characters that I had mentioned here in my video. Yeah, it looks about right. And then finally we have, well, what do we have? Mercs for money. Realistically, it's mercs for money. Let's be honest, it's mercs for money. So this is a problem. This is a problem on a lot of fronts, and that's why I wanted to leave for last. Of course, it is kind of the other section. I have Old Man Logan, and I was just talking about Deathpool, actually, but Deathpool, I forgot Deathpool was merch for money. So you might want to just save her for that. And then I don't have Deadpool leveled up, and so I'm in a bit of a pickle here on this account. And I am slowly bringing up Pandapool and Dawkin to probably about 85 G16. I'm hoping that Old Man Logan can carry these nodes a little bit based on the difficulty that I'm going to be running, right? Just to go back to the difficulties in this, I will be running at maximum D12, but honestly, I'd be fine with D11 too. Walking away with a 5-star Shadow King, perfectly okay with me. So I'm looking at like a level 90 G16 kind of range of enemies. And so therefore, if I have Old Man Logan at, G19 100, maybe he can carry. If you don't have Old Man Logan, I think, sorry guys, I think you're fucked. Just being honest, I think that this is going to be near impossible to get through the entire trial. I don't even know if I would waste gold on Undying to do this. I think you're just gonna have to walk away with a 4-star if that's possible at doing the one node run. And we're gonna take a look at that on Friday. When the server resets, I'll be doing it from my alt account. That's gonna be the very first thing I check. Actually, is gonna be whether or not that's possible, so that you can get an easy 4-star and walk away with that at the very least before Null comes back around on Saturday, right? But again, Mercs for Money, I think, is your realistic bet here, especially when you look at the enemies from my other video when we talked about the nodes and the enemies on those nodes. Mercs for Money makes the best bet. As far as the 5th character goes, though, I'm actually thinking of, instead of Deadpool, I'm actually thinking of raising up Scarlet Witch Zombie, because I have to raise a 5th character, and I think that's probably the ones that I'm going to do. Now, she is 3 yellow, 0 reds. I don't have anything, right? But I think that she's probably going to perform better, I hope, than Deadpool. Also, some of the enemies on the Merc nodes do punish characters from dying. So I'm gonna try this, right? I'm just hoping that Old Man Logan essentially carries most of it for me at the difficulties that I'm running. I think if you're running at the higher difficulties, the 6-star stuff, you're gonna absolutely need like the full Mercs for Money team. So do take that with a grain of salt. I don't personally recommend using Undying, and Big Positive Geek also recommends using the full Mercs for Money team. If you don't have Old Man Logan, it's gonna be very, very tough. And so I think that covers basically everything that I do want to talk about. Again, instead of using it from my main account's perspective, I wanted to do this video from my alt account's perspective. The infographic will be in the links and then in the descriptions down below. Also, it will be on my Discord server later on today as well. So let me know what your thoughts are about the Shadow King trial. How are you preparing for that? Do you have Old Man Logan? It's kind of a kick in the balls, honestly, that Scopely's not running the Old Man Logan trials before this comes back around. I think this crap. Hopefully he's permanent sometime pretty soon. But otherwise, let me know how you're doing, and that's going to be the end of this video, everyone. Look forward to some new ones, of course, in the days to come. Otherwise, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see y'all later. Boilon signing out.